Alpen Pharmaceuticals in association with Higher Secondary Principals Forum.
Namaskar. Hello viewers. Today let's try to explore more concepts in physics of standard 12. But before going for next chapter, electric potential and capacitance, let's revise what we have done in the previous session. That is in chapter 1, electric charge, force and field. So we'll have quick revision of this particular part. So in this chapter, we have discussed frictional electricity, and under frictional electricity, you know what is meant by charging. What is charging? Nothing but loss or gain of electrons. When electrons are lost from the body, charges are lost from the body, it acquires a positive charge, and body which gains the electron acquires negative charge. Body which gains the electron also gains mass. Then we have discussed about properties of charge. The smallest charge we know, and the smallest charge you know is 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb. And that you get from the very important property of charge, that is charge is quantized, Q is equal to plus or minus Ne. Then we have what is called as force between the charges, that is given by Coulomb's law. And that is Coulomb force, you know the characteristics of this Coulomb force. It's a central force. What is meant by central force is very important. It is a force which is acting along the line joining the two charges. It could be attractive or repulsive, and it also obeys principle of superposition of forces. What exactly mean by that? If you want to find the force on one charge, you can find out the total force on that particular charge, taking into account the force due to the other charges in the vicinity. Then you know how to express what is the concept of electric field and how to express electric field. How to define electric field due to a point charge or due to a charge body. At a point you can define electric field. How you can define that electric field in terms of lines of force, properties of lines of force. Then you have done one beautiful concept or assembly of charge called dipole, where there are two equal and opposite charges separated by a distance. When you say a dipole, series of things you should remember. If you remember physics that way, you will able to understand that in a better way. So just when I say electric dipole, first of all, what is mean by electric dipole? What is electric dipole moment? What are the electric field variation along the axis and along the perpendicular bisector? What happens if the dipole is placed in electric field? Torx acts on it. That we have discussed. Then we have defined the electric flux. What exactly mean by electric flux? Gauss's law, and how to apply this Gauss's law to find the electric field intensity near various charge assembly. Now to summarize, let me show you what are the various charge assembly that we discussed. The first charge assembly we discussed was the point charge, and due to point charge we have field given by the formula 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 q upon r square. So at distance r, electric field is E. Then at distance 2r, electric field will be E by 4. At distance 3r, electric field will be E by 9, because electric field varies as the square of the distance, inversely proportional to the square of the distance. If I take a dipole, at distance E, suppose electric field is, at distance r, electric field is E. At distance 2r, E by 8. At distance 3r, it will be E by 27. Because electric field is inversely proportional to r cube, electric field falls off faster near electric dipole. Then you have line of charge. Line of charge is, or a charge wire. At distance r, suppose electric field is E. It is E by 2, E by 3 respectively at 2r and 3r, because it is just inversely proportional to r. And if you have an infinite sheet of charge, if electric field is E, at any distance from the line of charge, you will have electric field E because it is independent of R and it is giving uniform field around infinite sheet of charge. And then you have charge shell. Inside the charge shell, you have electric field is 0. And near the charge shell, away from the charge shell at distance E, R and it is E. At distance 2r, it is E by 4. At distance 3r, it is E by 9 because it is inversely proportional to R square again, just like a point charge. For each of this, we can plot a graph and try to understand the variation near the variation of electric field near this charge assembly. So that's what a quick revision of the previous chapter. Let's try to start next chapter. So get ready, tighten your seat belt, take a pen and paper and try to understand the concepts under chapter 2, that is electrostatic potential and capacitance. Now, what you are going to study in the first part of the chapter? Let's try to understand what is meant by potential energy. You know, my dear student, if there is a charged particle, there is an electric field surrounding the charged particle. And this electric field from the point charge, if it is a positive charge, the electric field is directed away. You know, if you want to move an object from one point to another height, there is a lot of gain of potential energy. We call that as a gravitational potential. And we do work against the gravitational force to lift the object from this height to this height. Likewise, if I want to move a charge against the direction of electric field, then work has to be done to move the charge from one point to another point. So if I have 2 points here in the vicinity of the point charge here, point R and point P, to move a charge from point R to point P, there is a work done. That work done is nothing but change in potential energy. Just like when I lift an object from one height to another height, there is a change in gravitational potential energy. Doing a work against the gravity, here there is a change in electrical potential energy, moving a charge from point R to P. And that is that change in potential energy. UP is a potential energy at point P, UR is a potential energy at point R, and WRP is the work done in moving a charge from R to P. But that charge has to be moved without acceleration against the direction of the electric field here in this situation. Then we can define a potential difference between the 2 points. If VP is the potential at this point, VR is the potential at this point, we can say potential difference between these 2 points as work done per unit charge, and it is just a change in potential energy per unit charge. This is the definition of potential difference. It is a work done in taking a charge from one point to another point against the direction of electric field without acceleration. Now, if you choose this point R at infinity, then the potential at infinity could be taken at 0, and we can get potential at a point. At this point, we can find out the potential, and that potential is denoted as VP, and it will be nothing but work done in taking a charge from infinity to point P per unit charge. That will be the potential at a point. And potential at a point is always described in terms of another point which is at infinity. And in both the cases, you will find that potential difference is also having a unit joules per coulomb, and potential is also having a unit joules per coulomb. Potential is defined at a point, and potential difference is defined between the 2 points. We can solve situation based on this potential difference. You can take 2 points. You can take 2 points. This is suppose 10 volt. This is minus 10 volt. Charge mode is suppose 1 joule. I can find out charge is mode is suppose 1 coulomb. I can find out what is the work done in that case. I can give you the 1 coulomb charge, this potential and the work done. We can find out this type of potential at another point. So this type of situation you can solve initially to get used to the concept. Now let's go and try to find out what exactly is the formula or expression to find out electric potential, just like we have electric field due to a point charge at some distance 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 q upon r. Likewise, let's see what will be the expression for electric potential due to a point charge. So here we have a point charge, and point charge is denoted as plus q. We want to find out electric potential at point P, which is at distance r. Now let's try to understand physics behind this, then put mathematics in this and get the expression for potential due to a point charge. Now what is the definition of potential at a point? It is a work done in taking a charge all the way from infinity to P. That work done per unit charge is the potential, electric potential at that point. So first we have to find out what is the work done in taking a charge from infinity to point P. Now, work done, the plain formula is work done is equal to force into displacement. Now, if force is say QE acting here charge is Q, electric field is acting in this direction. So QE is the force acting on this charge Q. So if QE is the force which is acting in this direction, so minus QE, the distance travel is infinity to P, so almost infinity. So you should have the work done as force into infinity, which is infinity. But we cannot use this particular concept. What is the reason behind that? This formula we can use only when the force is constant. Here force is variable, is not constant. As the distance changes, electrical force changes. It is inversely proportional to r square. So that's the reason we won't able to use that particular definition of work done. We have to divide this whole path from infinity to point P into the small elements. We consider one such element, say dr. Find out the work done due to this small element. And then you try to integrate, try to find the sum of it, and you will get electric work done in taking a charge from infinity to point P. That is the procedure. And that work done per unit charge is the electric potential. So let's try to write down now mathematical expression for this. So we have this charge move through a small distance dr. So work done in moving this through that distance is minus QE dr, where minus QE is the force acting on the charge. And electric field at distance r is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 q upon r square. Now, if you want to find out total work done in moving a charge from infinity to point P, W infinity P will be limits from infinity to r. You are getting a charge at distance r, dW. Substitute that, it will be minus QE dr. Substitute value of E here, and you will get minus q 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 q upon r square dr. If you take this q and q out, q you can take down, make it W infinity P upon q, which is a potential at a point, and solve this integral. This integral is nothing but integral of 1 minus 1 by r square dr, which turns out to be 1 by r. And you can easily find out the integral of that. And you can substitute this limits of integration, and limits of integration, if you try to find substitute, you will get 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 r minus 1 by r. That will be your potential from infinity to r. And you substitute this limit 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 minus 1 upon r. Minus sign comes out, of course, minus 1 upon r, minus of minus 1 upon infinity, and this you will get 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 q upon r. That is the minus sign already. You can take this minus sign out, and that minus sign out, and this 1 by r square will give you minus 1 upon r, and that you can substitute and get the final formula. Based on this, we can solve numericals. And the numericals, you can take two charges like this, minus 3 coulomb, say 6 coulomb, and find out what is the electric potential at this point using this beautiful formula of V is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 r square, Q upon R, sorry. Okay, use this formula to find out electric potential due to a point charge. Another example you can take, there are two charges Q and minus Q. Suppose I want to find out potential at this point, and potential between these two unequal charges will be 0 somewhere in between. Due to equal charges, electric field is 0 at center if there are equal charges. If it is equal charges at the center, potential will add up. And if it is unequal charges, potential at some point will be 0. One can find out this potential here at some distance x, and that x you can find out if this distance d is given, these charges are given, you can easily find out the electric potential at point P. Likewise, we can have, if there are 3 charges involved and their distances are given, what is the electric field potential at the center? Only you should know what is the distance from the charge to the center, this charge to the center, this charge to the center. Simple geometry will help you to find out this, and you can easily find out what is the electric potential at the center due to these 3 charges. Likewise, I can find out electric potential at this point due to this charge, this charge, this charge, these dimensions are given. Use same formula 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 Q upon R and get that. Suppose you have 4 charges in the vicinity, and then you have to find out the potential at this point. We can again find out by finding these distances from the charge to this center in 4 different charges, from 4 different charges. Then suppose we have same situation and you are asked to find out potential at O. And the situation given is what is the work done in moving a charge from O to C? What is the work done in moving a charge from O to C? Then find first potential at O due to these 4 charges. Find potential at C due to these 4 charges, and then work done is nothing but charge into potential difference. That's a way to understand learning of this type of numericals. So take a snapshot of this and try out the situations if you can. Then next, another example I'll tell you with the help of which you can understand how exactly graphically you can represent electric field and electric potential. So if I take a charge of 1 nanocoulomb, and 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 value is known in the first chapter itself, that is 9 into 10 raised to 9 units. Electric field formula is this, potential formula is this. If I take a distance, say 1 meter, I can calculate what is the electric field due to 1 nanocoulomb charge as 1 meter. What is the potential at 1 meter due to 1 nanocoulomb? It comes to turn out to be same. At 2 meters you find out, at 3 meters you find out, and at 4 meters you find out. And you graphically plot electric field and potential versus distance, and you will get beautiful graphical representation of both electric field and electric potential. See how electric field varies and how exactly potential varies. Numerical values I have given you. Electric field falls off faster, whereas electric potential falls off slower. Same thing is depicted in this particular graphs. Electric field is falling off faster, electric potential is falling off lesser speed. Then we have another example, electric potential due to a dipole. So if you have a dipole, plus Q charge, minus Q charge separated by a distance 2a. If you want to find out potential at any point C, then you find out first what is the potential due to this plus Q charge at C, due to this minus Q charge at C, add up, you have to take contribution due to minus Q charge negative, add up, you will resort to this final formula, which is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 P cos theta r square minus a square cos square theta. Of course, this cos theta comes if you try to find out the actual distance from charge to point C and this charge to point C using geometrical method. Okay? And if you take this point C on the axis, then theta will be 0, and you can get 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 p upon r square as the electric field if it is a short dipole, if this distance is very, very small compared to distance r. And if you take any point on the perpendicular bisector, you will find potential 0. So if I have a dipole like this, this is a dipole we have, then electric potential at the center between the two charges will be 0. At any point on this plane, electric potential will be 0. At any point if I take, the electric potential will be 0. This plane will be nothing but the plane having 0 potential at any point, and it is called as equipotential surface. It is a equipotential surface of 0 volt. That is the concept of equipotential surface, potential over which the surface over which electric potential remains constant. So that is equipotential surface, and this is a beautiful diagram for equipotential surfaces. It is the same diagram from your textbook. This is around a positive charge. This is more or less near the positive and negative charge. This is between the two charges, and compare it with the electric field lines pattern near the two charges. If you take dipole here, at the center of the dipole, there is no equipotential surface passing because electric potential at the center of the dipole is 0. If you see the lines of force pattern for the positive charge and negative charge, you will find electric line will pass through that particular point. Whereas for like charges, positive charge and the negative charge, electric field at this point is 0. So no line of force passes through it. Go through that diagram and see. And if you take equipotential surface, the equipotential surface passes through this because there is a potential between the two like charges at the center of the two like charges. That's a beautiful distinction you can make between the lines of force pattern and equipotential surfaces pattern. Then we have equipotential surfaces due to uniform field. These are the equipotential surfaces in uniform field. So this is the concept of equipotential surface. Now next we should know what is the relation between electric field and potential. That's a very interesting relation between electric field and the potential. Now suppose we have two equipotential surfaces. This is A and B, two equipotential surfaces. On this equipotential surface, the potential is constant. That potential is say V. And this particular equipotential surface has a potential V plus dV. And distance between the two equipotential surfaces is dl. So AP is the distance between the two surfaces. Now, I want to find out the relation between electric potential and electric field. So, what is the electric potential and what electric field relation? How to get it? So, you first find out the work done in taking a unit charge from A to P, and that work done is nothing but QE dl. dl is the distance between the two. So, Q is 1 coulomb, 1 unit, so UE dl. This work done on unit positive charge is nothing but the potential difference between these two plates. So, potential difference is V minus V plus dV, and you will get minus dV. Work done is nothing but E dl because of unit positive charge, and you will get E dl as minus dV. And you have final relation E is equal to minus dV by dl. Now, this formula we can put to use. The applications are there, we'll see that applications also. But one thing is revealed from this formula, that in the direction of the electric field, potential is decreasing. And with the help of a numerical, you can understand this. How we can understand this? Suppose I take a charge of 1 nanocoulomb. This is a charge of 1 nanocoulomb. Using a formula of V is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 Q upon R, you find the potential at distance 1 meter. And that turns out to be 9 volt. If I find out potential at 2 meters, you get 4.5 volt. This is the equipotential surface of the 4.5 volt. At any point near the charge at 2 meters, potential will be same. So this is the equipotential surface at 2 meters. This is the equipotential surface at 1 meter, and if you see in the direction of electric field, potential is decreasing. That's a nice thing to observe. So that's the thing, that's the underlying point you should remember. And applications of this is very interesting. Now, if you have two plates, positive plate and the negative plate, and if it is maintained at a distance, say d, separation between the two plates is d, what is the potential difference between the two plates is VAB. VAB is the potential difference between this plate and this plate. Then we can find what is the work done in taking a charge from one point to another point, that is Q into VAB. And if you want to find out the electric field between these two plates, electric field is nothing but potential difference upon distance. This is the application of same formula, E is equal to minus dB by dl. And let me tell you, my dear student, how it was used in one of the famous experiment called Millikan's oil drop experiment, which won Nobel Prize in 1923. So you will like to know what are the concepts of electrostatic put to use in this particular Millikan's oil drop experiment. That is nice thing to hear. So here we have Millikan's oil drop experiment in which there are two places. Can you see these two places? These two places having a small hole at the center, and there is another plate. Some 1000 volt potential difference is maintained between this. D is the distance between this. E is the electric field is existing between this. And electric field we can find out using the formula potential difference upon the distance. Now, what is done in this experiment? With the help of a spray gun or atomizer, the oil is sprayed, and due to the friction, the oil gets charged, and this charged oil drop falls through this hole. This charged oil drop in the electric field, then viewed with the help of a microscope, the terminal velocity of that charge drop is found. And using the concepts of viscosity which you have done in 11th standard, Stokes' law, that is used to find out what charge and the quantization of charge in the electrostatic which you have done in this year, which you are doing in this year. These concepts are put to use to find the charge of an electron. So what is that charge of the electron? 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb was estimated by this famous Nobel Prize winning experiment, which is called as Millikan's oil drop experiment. If you have some time, go through this, Google Millikan's oil drop experiment, and you will get loads of theory based on this. Learn physics this way. You will understand physics this way if you try to learn, incorporating the concept, how the different experiments are made possible. Yes, the next concept which we are going to learn in this chapter is electrostatic potential energy. Electrostatic potential energy. What is meant by electrostatic potential energy? As I told you, if the object is raised from certain height, body acquires a gravitational potential if it is raised to another height. Likewise, if I get a charge against the electric field of another charge, work is done which is stored as a potential energy of that particular system. So exactly how to account for this particular potential energy, and what will be the beautiful expression for this potential energy? Let's try to understand. So we have a charge here Q1. This is suppose a positive charge. It will have an electric field around it, and the electric field is directed away if it is a positive charge. Now, if I want to get any other charge and place at point B, at point B, the electric field is existing because of this charge Q1. So there is already potential at point B due to this charge Q1. This potential is given by V is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 Q upon Q1 upon R12. Suppose the distance between this Q1 and Q2 is R12. So R12 is nothing but the magnitude of this particular R2 bar minus R1 bar is R12 distance, which is magnitude of R21 bar minus R1 bar. That's the magnitude I am taking as R12, which is just a plain distance between A and B. Now, work done in getting a charge from infinity to point B will be equal to potential at that point, which is V due to the charge Q1, This is the potential due to charge Q1 into charge itself. This is the work done, which is equal to potential into a charge. And if you substitute this formula here, you will get this work done stored as an energy, and it is nothing but 4 pi epsilon 0 Q1 R12 into Q2. This is called as potential energy of the system of two charges. So these are the two charges, then this is the potential energy due to two particle system. Likewise, we can find out potential energy due to three particle system. And if you want to find out potential energy due to three particle system, you can take a contribution from charge Q3 also, Q2 also. So if I get another charge here, and it is having some position vector R3 bar, then you can have first you have to do work getting a charge Q2 and depositing at this point P. That will be W12. Then you are getting another charge and putting at this point somewhere. You have to do work against this field first, that is W13, and then again you have to do a work against this particular field of charge Q2, that is W23. If you substitute all this component, you will get this potential energy expression for three particle system. So when you are learning this, just take a snapshot and try to go in detail of this, read more about this, and this is the formula which I get after finding a contribution from each field for getting charge Q2 and Q3 near in the vicinity of Q1. So this is a potential energy due to three particle system. Potential energy due to single charge in electric field is nothing but Q into potential at that point. This is a formula which very often used in many situations. Then we have potential energy due to a dipole. You know what is meant by dipole. You know what is meant by dipole. Dipole is nothing but two equal and opposite charges separated by a distance. Normal tendency of a dipole in electric field, it gets aligned in the direction of the field. When the field is applied, it gets aligned in the direction of the field. If you want, this is the direction of the field, the dipole will try to align in the direction of the field. If you try to move a dipole against the direction of the field, then work has to be done. That work done is stored as a potential energy. So what is the torque acting on a dipole? That we have discussed in the previous chapter. Torque acting on a dipole is Pe sin theta. Tau is equal to Pe sin theta. And that torque changes as the theta changes. It's a variable torque. So if you want to find out what is the work done in rotating this dipole, you just find out first work done in rotating a dipole through small angular displacement d theta. So that work done you can find out through a small displacement. That work done is tau into d theta. Just like force into small displacement, in rotational motion it is torque into small angular displacement, and tau d theta, substitute P sin theta d theta. If you want to find out total work done in moving a dipole from one angle to another angle against the direction of electric field, then you just take integral of theta 1 to theta 2 of dw, which is Pe sin theta d theta. Now you take this Pe out and you will get integral of sin theta, and integral of sin theta is nothing but sin theta d theta is nothing but minus cos theta, and you have two limits of integration, theta 1 and theta 2. P is here. This is a potential energy we are talking about. Substitute this upper limit. So this is P minus cos theta 2 minus of minus cos theta 1, and this comes out to be P is equal to cos theta 1 minus of minus will be plus minus cos theta 2. This is the formula which you get here after substituting the limits of integration. Then if you put theta 1 as 90 degree and theta 2 is say 0 degree, that means dipole is moved from 90 degree and final angle is suppose 0. Theta 2 is 0, then you can get Pe minus cos theta, and that is nothing but a dot product of P bar and E bar. If theta is 0, then torque acting is minimum and potential energy is also minimum. Torque acting is sine 0 is 0, torque acting is 0, sine u is equal to minus P. This is a minimum potential energy, and we call that as a stable equilibrium. So if the dipole have aligned in a direction of the field, then it is in the stable equilibrium. If it is moving against the direction of the field, say theta is equal to 180 degree, then torque is maximum, potential energy is maximum, which is Pe, and in this case it is unstable equilibrium. Why it is unstable equilibrium? Because at that point it acquires a maximum potential energy, and that maximum potential energy makes it unstable. That is a unstable equilibrium. Now, number of numericals you can solve based on electrical potential energy, and beautiful. Same situation which you have used for potential finding. Same situations you can use for potential energy finding. Suppose I have these 3 charges. Find the potential energy of this system. How to find out? Just take the formula U is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 Q1 Q2 upon R12. Use that and find out the potential energy between this A and B. Find the potential energy between B and C. Find the potential energy between A and C. And that is the total potential energy of the system. So you can start from solving a simple numerical first to get used to the concept. Then you can take, say, 3 charges. 3 charges at 3 different corners of the triangle. This is given as 60 degree. So this is side is 0.5 meter. So naturally this will be also 0.5 meter. This will be also 0.5 meter. And you can easily find out what is the potential energy of this system. If you have same 3 charges are at 3 corners of the triangle, you can find out the potential energy of the system. Now the question is asked in a different way. What is the work done in taking these 3 charges which are at the corners of 1 meter to put it at the corners of 0.5 meter triangle? What is the work done in moving these 3 charges which are at corners of triangle having side 1 meter to put these 3 charges at the corners of triangle having side 0.5 meter? How to solve this situation? So what you can do, first find potential energy of this system, taking this distance 1 meter. Then you find out the potential energy of this system by taking a distance between them as 0.5 meter. This is, say, final energy. This is, say, initial potential energy. Difference you find out, difference in energy, final energy minus initial energy will be the work done. So that is the work done in assembling the 3 charges at the corners of triangle having lesser side. Likewise, you can solve numerical based on 4 charges like this. 4 charges at different corners, and then they are collapsing at the corners having half the size of this. So the same way you can find out the potential energy of the system using this formula. Then next we should know, now both this chapter, first chapter 1 and part of this chapter have given you so much information about the charge conductor. What is meant by charge conductor? How exactly charge conductor behaves in an electric field? What exactly are the characteristics of this? All that you can list as a electrostatic of the conductor. What exactly happens in the when the charge conductor is placed in electric field, or when it is a charge conductor itself? So inside the conductor, electrostatic field is 0. There is no charges residing inside the conductor, so electric field is 0. At the surface of the charge conductor, electric field is always normal. Understand this point. Electric field outside the charge conductor is normal to the surface of the conductor. So this is suppose a conductor. Electric field outside the charge conductor is normal to the surface of the conductor. It cannot be tangential. If it is tangential, if it is not normal, it will have a component along the surface, and that in that case, along that component of the electric field, charges can move, and it can give rise to what is called as surface current, and that is not possible. There is no surface currents in electrostatic situations. So we have, that is why electric field always perpendicular to the surface of the conductor. Interior of the conductor, charge is 0, electric field is 0. What about electric potential inside the conductor? If electric field is 0, electric field is minus derivative of potential. So potential V will be constant. So inside the charged conductor, potential is constant. So if you have 100 volt on the surface of the charged conductor, inside at any point in the conductor, inside the hollow conductor, you will find potential as 100 volt. Now, on the surface of the conductor, electric field is given, near the surface of the conductor, electric field is given by sigma upon epsilon 0, where sigma is the surface charge density. Now, same point which I want to take it forward, if electric field inside the cavity of the conductor is 0, that fact is called as electrostatic shielding. Electrostatic shielding is nothing but electric field inside the cavity of the conductor is 0, and it has many applications. Whatever may be the electric field outside, electric field inside will be 0. So if there is a lightning, and if you are traveling by a car, and if you are inside a car, it will be better and it will be safer if you remain inside a car. If lightning strikes, if you are inside a car, whatever may be the electric field outside, inside electric field will be 0. You won't be affected by that as such. Okay, so next, just the way how the conductors behaves, electrostatics of the conductors we have seen. Now let's move on to the non-conductors. How exactly non-conductors behaves in an electric field? That's a nice thing to understand. First tendency, first response, how the non-conductors behave, how they will behave, that is a question mark, correct? But there are some materials in insulators or non-conductors which have a peculiar property, and that peculiar property of those non-conductors makes them special. And those special category which have this peculiar property are called as dielectrics. So dielectrics are basically non-conductors, and they have a property to retain charge. So what are the different types of dielectric you should know? What is meant by dielectric? It is an insulator or non-conductors, but these non-conductors, some non-conductors have a property to retain charge. Now what exactly happens, what is more important for us to understand is what exactly happens when they are placed in external electric field. So there are two types of dielectric, non-polar dielectrics and polar dielectric. What is meant by this? I'll tell you in short. If there is an atom, there is an atom has two center of charge. Atom has two center of charge. One is positive charge because of the proton, and all electron, equal number of electron constitute negative center of charge. So in a molecule, I have positive center of charge, and the negative center of charge. If this positive center of charge and negative center of charge coincides, then the dipole moment in that case is 0. So dipole moment in that case is 0. The material which are made up of such molecule will be called as non-polar dielectrics resulted from such type of molecules. Polar dielectrics, they possess some dipole moment, the positive center of charge and negative center of charge. The positive center of charge and negative center of charge will be separated by some distance, and they have inbuilt what is called as dipole moment. So they are called as polar dielectric. Now let's move forward and try to understand what is their behavior in the external electric field. That is more interesting for us. So if these particular materials are placed in external field, this is the material which is placed. These dielectrics are placed in external field. These dielectrics are placed in external field. External field is E bar. So this field if you place, then the positive center of charge which is there, moves in the direction of the field. negative center of charge moves against the direction of the field, and this pulling of positive center of charge and negative center of charge, this stretching is called as electric polarization. It is called as electric polarization. And because of this, the induced dipole moment is created, which is induced dipoles movement, induced charges are developed on the surface of these dielectrics, having negative charge density on one side, positive charge density on the other side, and electric field inside this material will get reduced. So this is the effect of dielectric when it is placed in electric field. Whether it is a non-polar dielectric or polar dielectric, the electric polarization takes place in both the cases. Only difference in case of non-polar dielectric, there is no inbuilt dipole moment. In case of polar dielectric, there is a dipole moment. Even then, they get stretched in the direction of the field, against the direction of the field, giving rise to electric polarization. So this is the point which you should remember as far as dielectric is concerned. Okay, now let's try to understand very important concept of this particular chapter, that is electrical capacitance. This particular part is very important as far as most of the examination is concerned. If you try to go through any JEE paper or NEET exam paper or any MCQ level paper, national level paper, you will find most of the MCQs figuring on this particular part. So let's try to understand concept in detail. If you have heard about this part, then pay attention, see how you can understand in much better way. Now, you know, my dear student, certain electrical devices need large amount of current to start. And to dispense that energy, we need a special element which can do that job. Now, for example, battery. Battery supplies electrical energy continuously. But for this type of devices, you need a large amount of electrical energy, large amount of current to be dispensed at a very short interval of time. And that job is done in these devices by a capacitor. So capacitor is a device which is making more current to flow at the start. And that capacitor is used in fans. So in fans they are used at the start to get the motor start, and this particular capacitor which is planted here inside the fan, you must have seen electrician replacing this capacitor sometimes when fan stops working. Then we have a motor, pump set or motor, where you need large amount of current at the start. Then you have a flash of a camera to capture your 1000 megawatt of smile on your face. Camera does a job, and that camera does a job with the help of a flash. That flash operates because of the capacitor. So this capacitor is the little agent which helps to put 1000 megawatts to capture your 1000 megawatt smile on your face. Then this capacitor is also used in many electrical circuits. This N-circle part and nothing but in an electrical circuit, electronic circuit, gadget, this capacitor is put to use. So to understand this capacitor, what is the function of this capacitor? What is this capacitor? Let's try to understand what is meant by electrical capacitance. We have different types of capacitors. These are the different types of capacitor which are usually introduced in the various circuits, whether it is a cylindrical one or whether you take a parallel plate one, or these different types of capacitors. The PF, you will understand what does this F means. So these are the different types of capacitors which are used in electronic circuits. These capacitors sometimes use in radio circuits where they to vary the frequencies and all. Then, so let's learn the concept of electrical capacitance. What is meant by electrical capacitance? Now, you know, my dear student, if there is a conductor And if you deposit a charge on a conductor, it raises its potential. And potential raise is proportional. So charge deposited on a conductor is directly proportional to a potential. It is raised. If you put Q by V, this is a constant. This constant is called as capacitance. So what is meant by capacitance? Capacitance is nothing but ratio of charge to potential. Now if I say capacitance is the capacity to hold charge, is the statement correct? Let's see, try to understand that part. Suppose we have a conductor. This is a conductor A, having say I deposit a charge on this 1 coulomb and it raises a potential by 1 volt. And if I have a conductor say B and I deposit the same amount of charge but it raises a potential to 2 volt. You know what is the capacitance of this conductor A? Capacitance of this conductor A is 1 farad. Farad is the unit of capacitance. Coulomb upon volt is farad. Likewise, this conductor will have a capacitance of half farad. Now from this it is very clear, this particular capacitor, this particular conductor, I have deposited 1 coulomb of charge. This also I have deposited 1 coulomb of charge. But this conductor have raised its potential to 1 volt and this conductor have raised its potential to 2 volt. So capacity of this conductor is more because it has raised a lesser potential. So if the capacity is just not amount of charge stored, but it is a charge stored per unit potential. That is very important. So this particular conductor has a more capacity to store charge. So in the nutshell, what you have to understand is capacitance is nothing but the charge it can store with raising a less potential on it. That is what is meant by capacitance and concept of capacitance. And unit is farad, microfarad, picofarad are the smaller units one can have. Now if you have this was about the single conductor. Now you have two conductors now. If I have a conductor, say one conductor which is charged, what will be the capacity of this capacitance of this particular assembly? If I have this is a conductor having charge Q. If I place another uncharged conductor here, then negative charges will induce on this conductor because of the induction, charging by induction. So capacitance of this combination of this conductor and this conductor is nothing but the charge divided by potential difference between the two conductors. That is the capacitance of this assembly of conductors. And this assembly of conductors is nothing but the capacitor. So capacitor is the assembly of two conductors. One is positively charged, one gets negatively charged induced. Potential difference between them should get reduced. So that is particularly the concept of capacitor. Now this capacitor could be parallel plate capacitor. If both these conductors are parallel plates, one is positively charged, one is negatively charged, it becomes a parallel plate capacitor. This is also parallel plate capacitor, but plates are spherical in nature. So this is spherical, but it is a parallel plate capacitor. There could be a cylindrical capacitor also, spherical capacitor also. We don't have these two types of spherical and cylindrical capacitor in NCERT syllabus. Parallel capacitors are well done in NCERT syllabus. So let's try to go through this parallel plate capacitor. But if you want to understand, can I make a capacitor out of a spherical conductor? Suppose this is a spherical conductor. Can I make a spherical capacitor of 1 farad? Can I make a spherical capacitor of 1 farad? Now to understand this, if Q is the charge deposited, potential will be equal to V is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 Q upon R. This is your radius of that spherical conductor. This is a spherical conductor. Okay. So this is a spherical capacitor I am talking about. Spherical conductor, charge conductor. What will be the capacitance of this spherical charge conductor? So if I want to find, so C is equal to Q upon V. From this you will get 4 pi epsilon 0 R. So capacitance will be 4 pi epsilon 0 R. If you want to find out what is the radius of this 1 farad capacitor, C you put it as 1, and this is 4 pi epsilon 0. So 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 will have value 9 into 10 raised to 9 meters. Can you imagine if you want to make a spherical conductor as a capacitor of 1 farad, you will need a radius of 10 raised to 9 meters, where radius of the earth itself is 6,400 kilometers. So you need a bigger size spherical conductor to make a capacitor out of spherical conductor of 1 farad. So 1 farad is very large unit. So that's the reason most of the time we take parallel plate capacitor, not because the parallel plate capacitor is mostly used because one can make the parallel plate capacitor very easily, and that is the thing which is used in most of the circuit. So let's try to understand parallel plate capacitor. So parallel plate capacitor, two plates are parallel to each other. Each plate is having area A. They are separated by a distance. And if you want to make this capacitor, complete capacitor, you should insert a dielectric medium between the plates of the capacitor. If you just put air between the plates of the capacitor, then capacitance of this combination is not much. But if you insert a dielectric medium here, the potential difference decreases. C is equal to Q upon delta V. This delta V decreases. You will understand it later once we do this particular part. So delta V decreases, and that's the reason the capacity of this combination with dielectric will increase. So dielectric we can put between the plates of the capacitor. It has a dielectric constant, we take it as K, and this dielectric constant K material is put inside this, in between these plates. So imagine there are two plates A and B, 1 and 2, separated by a distance D. There is a dielectric medium here, and if the charge is plus Q on this conductor, 1 minus Q will induce on this. The surface charge density of this particular plate is sigma is equal to Q upon A. Separation between the two plates is D. Now, try to find out what is the electric field between these plates. Due to this charge plate 1, electric field will be directed towards the plate 2. Due to plate 2, electric field will be directed towards the plate 2. So net electric field in this region will be directed towards plate 2. So electric field due to plate 1 is nothing but sigma upon 2K epsilon 0, which we get from chapter 1. The formula is used from chapter 1. This is the electric field component due to this particular plate, sigma upon 2K epsilon 0. And if this two field gets added up, giving sigma upon K epsilon 0. So if V is the potential difference, as you know, the potential difference is E times D. So you put E sigma upon K epsilon 0, sigma you put it as Q upon A, and final formula you will get A K epsilon 0 upon D. So from this relation, you will come to know that capacitance is not depending on charge and voltage. Please remember, though the formula for capacitance is charge upon voltage, capacitance is the characteristic of that assembly, characteristic of that conductor. It is not depending on charge and potential, just like resistance is not depending on potential difference and the current. Resistance of the conductor is a characteristic of the conductor. Likewise, capacitance of the material is the characteristic of that material, characteristic of that particular assembly, and it is not depending on Q and V. It is depending on geometrical factor, area, distance between the two plates, and a dielectric medium between the two plates. What exactly this dielectric medium do when it is inserted between the two plates? When dielectric medium is inserted between these two plates, the electric field gets decreased. Electric field gets decrease, potential gets decreased, and that's the reason, since potential decreases, capacitance increases. So this is the concept of parallel plate capacitor. You have a beautiful formula, A K epsilon 0 upon D, and even if you try to plot a graph of Q versus V, the straight line graph you will get, and the slope you will get as the capacitance of the conductor. Then you should know what is meant by combination of capacitors. Capacitors in series and capacitors in parallel. So how we represent capacitor in the circuit? So two parallel plate like this. That is the way we represent capacitor. Battery we denote this way. So capacitor we denote, this is a symbol of capacitor. So if these three capacitors are connected in series, say capacitance C1, C2, C3, they are connected in series across a potential difference, positive and negative. V is the potential difference between the two. Then this particular potential difference maintained will supply a charge. This charge will get distributed on each plate. Each plate will have same amount of charge. So when they are connected in series, same amount of charge on each plate. If plus Q is there on the one plate, minus Q will get induced on the other plate. So charge is same when the capacitors are connected in series. Potential across each one of them is different, and total potential difference is nothing but sum of the potential difference across each capacitor. If you substitute value of using C is equal to Q1, value of C1, V1 as Q upon C1, Q upon C2, Q upon C3, and instead of three capacitors, which you have single capacitor say C, then this equation will turn out into this formula. So 1 by C is equal to 1 by C1 plus 1 by C2 plus 1 by C3. What does it mean? So if the capacitors are connected in series, the net capacitance, reciprocal of net capacitance, reciprocal of total capacitance is equal to sum of the reciprocal of individual capacitance. That's what it means. Likewise, if the capacitors are connected in parallel, so C1, C2, C3 are connected in parallel, then C1, this particular battery is supplying a charge. This battery supplies a charge which gets distributed in three branches now. This branch, and this branch. Depending on the capacity, charge will be drawn through this branch, and this branch. So total charge which is flown from the battery is nothing but Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3. Please note there is a different symbol here. You can use same symbols here. So Q1, Q2, Q3 is a total charge which is supplied, which gets distributed and gets deposited on this capacitor C1, C2, C3. But what is Q1? It is C1V, C2V, C3V, because V is the potential difference across the three capacitors because they are connected in parallel. Substitute this, you will get this beautiful relation where total capacitance of the combination is sum of the individual capacitance. So from this you will come to know, if you want to add a capacitance, you have to connect them in series, and if you want to decrease the capacitance, you have to connect them in parallel here, sorry. And when you want to decrease the capacitance, you have to connect them in series. So that's the outcome of this particular part. So we can solve many numerical based on this, but try to understand for series what is a common thing, and for parallel connection what is a common thing. Understand that part. Suppose we have a capacitor like this. These two capacitors are in series. This is C1, this is C2. If I take this way, then you won't able to say these three capacitors are connected in series, because here the charge gets distributed. So these three capacitors are not in. So when this type of branching takes place, be careful and accordingly use the concept. So in this case, C1, C2, C3 are not in series. C2, C3 are between the two common points. They are in parallel. You can then find the combination of that, and you can add up to the C1 to get it in series. So you can solve this situation. You can take a snapshot of this, solve this situation, try out many such situations, and that will help to get a mastery on this type of network solution. So if you can find the equivalent capacitance between these 2 points, now here, don't consider this, all these are in series. Here this capacitor, here the branching takes place. So you have to see accordingly in which branch the common current is flowing. Now if you see here, if I start from here, here in these 3 capacitors, there is common current flowing. So you can take this in series. Find out their value. That value, combined value will be in parallel with this. Then these, combined value of this and this in series. Find out the value of that. Their total value will be in parallel with this. Combined value you will get out of this is in series with this and this. And hence you can find out net capacitance. Likewise in this case, start from this end, another end is B. Again in this case you can find out the potential capacitance between P and Q. This is a different branching. So this is, you will find this network comes out to be in parallel. Now to solve this type of loop, you need what is called as Wheatstone bridge of capacitor. And this Wheatstone bridge you are going to study in current electricity chapter number 3, which carries 7 marks in your syllabus. So in this case, what is the peculiar thing which you should remember? If these are the capacitors on 4 sides of the quadrilateral, and there is a capacitor in between. This is suppose C1, this is C2, this is C3, this is C4. This bridge is set to be balanced between point A and B. When C1 upon C2 is equal to C3 upon C4, and this capacitor will be useless, no current will flow through this, no charge will deposit between this, because potential at this point and potential at this point becomes same. So this capacitor, you don't take it into account, you take these capacitors in series, but this condition should be valid. C1 upon C2 is equal to C3 upon C4. This is a hint to solve this situation, this situation, this situation, this situation. Okay? So you practice this type of simple problem, then go for a difficult one, then see what are the type of questions that are asked in JEE or any other exam, and try to go in detail of that. Now, the last derivation of the chapter which you should know on this particular part is energy stored in the capacitor. I told you capacitor stores electrical energy. It dispenses electrical energy in short interval of time when it is required. So how much is this energy stored, where this energy is stored, and in what form this energy is stored? The answer to these 3 questions you will get in this article. So if you want to find out the energy stored in this capacitor, you can go in detail of this particular part. So what exactly the battery does when it is connected to a capacitor? When a battery is connected to a capacitor, capacitor gets charged. The battery supplies a charge to a capacitor. So this is a battery connected to a capacitor. It supplies a charge to a capacitor. Now question arises whether this charge supplied by a battery in one go, just like Amazon courier you get in one go, it is a courier parcel you get in one go, that is the way the charge is supplied by a battery. No, this particular battery supplies a charge in a small quantity, and once this capacitor is fully charged, it is not allowing any charge from the battery to come. The current in the adjacent circuit of the capacitor will be 0, and this particular capacitor is fully charged, having maximum charge on it. Once that maximum charge is acquired, the capacitor stops accepting charge. Now, how to find out this energy stored, and where is that energy stored? So let's try to understand that part. So charge is equal to C into V. C is the capacitance, Q is the charge, V is the potential between this plate. Now, how to find out this total energy stored? You know, energy stored is nothing but the work done by a battery in storing the charge. First, find out work done by a battery. So first you find out what is the work done by a battery in depositing a small amount of charge. So small amount of charge, I'll take it as dq. At constant potential V, work done will be V into dq. This is a small amount of work done in depositing the charge on this capacitor. So we put Q by C dq. So work done due to this small charge dq in depositing on this particular plate of the capacitor is given by dw is equal to V times dq. If you substitute V is equal to Q upon C from this, you will get QC dq. And if you want to find out total work done by this battery to store total charge Q, then just integrate 0 to Q dw, substitute this dw as Q by C dq, and you take this Q by C out, 1 by C out, integral of Q dq. Integral of Q dq is just like integral of x dx. Integral of x dx is nothing but x square by 2. So integral of Q dq is Q square by 2. And this 1 by C upon Q, 1 by C Q square by 2 is the work done. This work done is stored as the energy in the capacitor. This energy is stored half Q square by C. One can write in terms of half CV square or half QV using this particular formula. Now, where exactly this energy is stored? If this is the parallel plate capacitor, this is one plate, this is another plate, the energy is stored in between the plates of the capacitor, in between the poles. So the volume of the capacitor one can find out. So what is that volume of the capacitor? Volume of the capacitor is area of the plate into distance between the plate. Area of the plate into distance between the plate. This is the volume of the plate. Volume of the capacitor. That is AD. Capacitance is AK epsilon 0. Put these values in these equations, half CV square. You will get energy stored per unit volume, which is half epsilon K E square, where K is a dielectric constant inserted between the plates of the capacitor. So from this formula, it is very well known that energy stored per unit volume is directly proportional to E square. So energy is stored in the form of electric field in between the plates of the capacitor. That's what exactly it means. So if I have a capacitor having a dielectric medium between the plates of the capacitor, the energy is stored between the plates of the capacitor, not outside, neither in the plate, in between the plates of the capacitor, in the form of electrical energy. And that electrical energy is dispensed in a short interval of time whenever required. Now, if you connect capacitors in series, and if you know the energy stored of each capacitor, then total energy stored gets added. And even then, if you connect it in parallel, total energy stored is always gets added. Whether the capacitors are connected in series or parallel, total energy always gets added. Now, these are the situations we can solve based on this capacitor. Now, I'll told you, when you insert a dielectric medium between the capacitor, its capacitance decreases. Now, to what extent you will insert a dielectric? Whether you will insert a dielectric fully in the plates of the capacitor, if it is fully between the plates of the capacitor, then capacitance is C is equal to K upon K epsilon, A K epsilon 0 upon D. If it is fully placed between the plates of the capacitor. But now if you place a dielectric medium which is of thickness, say, lesser thickness, say T, this is a lesser thickness T, then what will be the capacitance in that case? This is the formula to be put to use. A epsilon 0 D minus T plus 1 upon K. Likewise, if you put conducting cell instead of dielectric in the air capacitor, if you put a conducting slab of thickness T, then the formula turns out to be A epsilon 0 D minus T. If you have many dielectric mediums, say K1, K2, K3 and so on, of thicknesses T1, T2, 3 and so on, in that case, the total capacitance will be A epsilon 0 T1 upon K1 plus T2 upon K2 plus T3 upon K3 plus so on. This formula is ready formula to find out if there are many dielectric materials are placed between the plates. Now, numericals based on this are asked in the national competitive exam, so prepare for this also at the same time. Likewise, if you have a dielectric mediums K1 and K2 between the plates placed this way, what will be the capacitance you can find out? Here the two dielectric mediums are placed in such a way that this you can treat this as a one capacitor of thickness d by 2 and dielectric constant K1. You can treat as another capacitor of thickness d by 2 and dielectric constant K2. These two combinations is a series combination. Likewise, these two capacitors are in parallel combination. We can solve this type of situation to get acquainted with this particular concept. Now, certain things you have to remember when you are learning to solve numerical based on this. These are the key points which you should remember. For example, if there is a capacitor which is charged and without any dielectric in between, its capacitance is say C, potential difference is V, electric field between the plate is E, energy stored is U, and charge is Q. This is air capacitor. And it is fully charged. These are the parameters when it is fully charged. Now, in this fully charged capacitor, suppose you place a dielectric medium, suppose you insert a dielectric medium of constant K. See what are the changes in this parameter takes place. The capacitance increases by Kc. It's wonderful to understand. Capacitance always increases. Potential difference decreases by K. Electric field between the plates decreases by K. Potential energy stored between these plates decreases by K, but charge will remain constant. So whether it is an air capacitor or with dielectric, if you introduce in between the air plates of the air capacitor, you will find charge remaining constant. Likewise, suppose you have an air capacitor connected to the battery, and these are the parameters which you have, and then you insert a dielectric medium, it remains connected to a battery, you insert a dielectric medium, and it's wonderful to know potential difference will remain constant because it is connected to a battery all the time, and electric field will remain constant, capacitance increases by Kc, energy stored increases by Ku, K times, and charge also stored increases by K times. So take a snapshot of this to understand the concept, what exactly happens when dielectric is introduced. This is the part which will help you to solve some numerical based on redistribution of charge. What exactly mean by, if I have a charged capacitor and it is connected to an uncharged capacitor, what exactly the changes that is taking place, what is the loss of energy that is taking place, that you can understand from this part. So before connecting this is a charged capacitor C1, this is a charged capacitor C2, it has capacitance C1 and C2 respectively. Potential difference across them is V1 and V2. Charge across them, charge on them is Q1 and Q2. Before connecting to this, total energy stored in this combination will be half C1 V1 square, and this capacitor half C2 V2 square. Now, if these two capacitors now connected parallel this way, so what will happen? One is capacitor is suppose more charge, another capacitor is say less charge. Both these capacitor will exchange charge till common potential is attained. This common potential you can find out by using this formula, C1 V1 plus C2 V2 upon C1 plus C2. This you get from the same formula, potential is equal to charge upon capacitance. So total charge will be Q1 plus Q2, total capacitance will be C1 plus C2, common potential is Q1 plus Q2 divided by C1 plus C2, and Q1 is nothing but C1 V1, Q2 is nothing but C2 V2. This formula you get. When the redistribution takes place, after redistribution, their charge will be different. It will be C1V, C2V. Energy stored will be different. And loss of energy you can find out by subtracting final energy from the initial energy. So these are the situations you can learn from this. So this is a chapter 2 carrying 5 marks in your syllabus of 12th standard. We do this chapter in the school, taking about 5 to 6 sessions of this, 7 to 8 lectures based on this. But I managed to try to cover up in this particular session, go through each part of this particular concept and try to go more detail of this particular part. Try to learn the derivations in detail, try to practice those derivations in detail. That will help you to understand the concept well. So yes, my dear student, you got the gist of this particular chapter 2, which is electric potential and capacitance. I'd like to thank Prudent for giving me this platform to put this particular part across you. I thank Principal Forum for giving me this opportunity, and you, my dear viewers, tolerating me in this particular frame for this particular session. Yes, my dear student, don't forget my tagline: physics is a subject full of beautiful diagram, handsome derivation, gorgeous concept, awesome explanation, and mind-blowing problem. Enjoy learning physics, stay safe, and maintain social distancing. Thank you.
Prudent Scholars, powered by Lupin Pharmaceuticals.